we talked about Chol Moed. Now we start to go through all the different prohibitions for an Avel, and we give psukim to kind of support what they are. Okay? The Gemara goes trying to give sources. We'll start.
But just before you say, we learned that an Avel during Chol Moed, what?
Does not keep Avelis.
Doesn't keep Avelis.
Does not keep Avelis. The Simcha of Yom Tov and Chol Moed overrides the sadness of Avelis. But that's just the opening stitch. Right? What happens is, in this whole next Amud, once it asks about an Avel, it says, what about Menuda? Person neither. What about a Mitzorah? Right? That you're going to get this trilogy. They're not the same. They're not the same, and in some cases the law is the same, some cases the law is different. But both these cases are people who are saddened and separated from the community. The Avel by definition is because he's internalized, he's home. The Menuda is a Nido, he's cut off, and the Mitzorah has to be sent outside the camp. So in all the cases, they're going to try to make the analogy to Menuda and Mitzorah, but really this is a seminal piece of Gemara because it gives us the 10 or 11, 12, 13, 14 different key halachas about an Avel. And it gives us sources for them. Okay? And actually I'm going to give you the source now. I put a couple of sources here so you have the English in front of you. I'm sure people will be coming in. Here we go. It's one page, front and back. Okay? Okay, so the source that we're going to spend a lot of time on is the source Yecheskel Perek Chav Daled. And Yecheskel is told to marry this woman, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says your wife is going to die, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands Yecheskel not to do certain things, okay, which you would normally assume. Which means we normally assume the novel can do.
Right.
So the Almighty says to Yecheskel, don't do this, which means an Avel should do this, or do this, which means an Avel shouldn't do this. There'll be one exception, and it comes from these two psukim here, Ted Zayin and Yud Zayin, which are very tight. We'll just read them because it's going to come back again and again and again. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Yecheskel, this is after his wife is about to die, says, Ben Adam, I'm going to take your wife away with some kind of plague. Velotisbod, you're not going to make a hesped. Velotivke, you're not going to cry. Velotavod masecha, and your tears won't come down. Now, obviously, that's telling us this is the antithesis of what a normal Avelis would be. Okay? And Heonegdom, be quiet. Okay? Now we'll have to see what that is, and that's actually something an Avel does do. We have to interpret it. Mesim Evel Lotase, make no mourning for the dead, which means don't do the nehugim of Avelis that a person would normally do. Pe'ercha chavosh alecha, you're going to wear your pe'er is something of beauty you're going to put on your head, which we will translate in the Gemara to mean you're going to wear tefillin, which means all of these commands that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Yecheskel is don't do what you should do and do what you shouldn't do. So we learn from this that Avel does not wear tefillin, and God's saying to Yecheskel, put on tefillin. You're going to say, well, you don't see that, and the answer is the Avel doesn't wear tefillin on the first day.
What is an owner?
No, the first day of Avelis, after Avelis. You normally after Kfur, you normally don't see this because you're normally not having shachris on the first day in the Avel's house. The day we do a Kfur during the day, they come back. That's the first day.
Oh, because the Kfura is done the next.
Kfura is done the same day. It doesn't mean the day after the Kfura, the day of Kfura.
What about in Israel, the person?
That's what happened when my mother passed away. The Levi was at night. Right. We came home. The next morning we had a menu. We didn't wear tefillin.
Oh, you didn't.
Right, correct.
But here
it's already
before the burial. You're saying in effect.
After the burial.
No, that's when you don't. We're saying the morning of the funeral is going to be at noon.
So the morning of the funeral, you're an owning. You're putter from it. That's a separate topic. But an Avel is putter from tefillin, specifically tefillin, on the first day. And it goes back to the command of Yecheskel, which is the opposite, right? That you're going to wear tefillin. We'll see. There's another interpretation what it means.
And is that just tefillin, not talit?
It means no tefillin. No tefillin, yes, talis.
So when you daven that first time,
we wore talis. We don't wear tefillin. Yes.
Yeah, but that's the next day. But that was the
why? Because you chayav mitzvahs. Why? What's so unusual? It's very unusual. But unusual is Tisha B'av. Did you ever wonder where it comes that you wear Tisha B'av? You don't wear tefillin. You wear tefillin on the afternoon. Right. Correct. Okay.
Because you're in mourning.
Right.
Same like Tisha B'av, you don't wear a talis.
That's true. Okay, but wearing talis cotton one way or the other.
Yeah, but it's back to again. I was confused between the onen and the.
The onen is the period before the levaya.
Right, and then the levaya is at noon.
Right.
Now,
so
you obviously didn't put on tefillin. Now the next day is already the next day.
Correct.
You're saying you don't put on tefillin the next day. You do.
You do.
You do.
Yes.
I got you.
No, you said you don't.
But the reason you didn't on that day of the levaya, you could say, is not because you're.
So A was because you're an onen, but after the funeral, you should still put tefillin on. I understand.
Even if it's late in the day.
Sure. Sure.
I got you. Okay.
Isn't there only if the levaya is after sunset? Is that what you're saying?
No.
The next day.
So let's say that the levaya is at 11 o'clock. Okay.
At night.
No, in the morning. In the morning. You're still mechuyev to put on tefillin
the rest of the day.
The rest of the day.
Right.
When you get home at 12.
That's what he's saying.
But he's saying you don't
Right.
because of this.
All I'm saying is when you're coming to pay Shiva call, you don't get to normally see this in North America because we don't bury at night.
Right.
So you never go to a Shiva for the first day of Shacharis.
Of course.
You never have a scenario the first day of Shiva of Shacharis you're in the Shiva, the Ovel's house. The only time would happen is if they buried at night, which doesn't happen in North America. Period.
Can I ask a question? The person put on tefillin, then the person, whatever passed away, his relative passed away, then the levaya was later on the day.
Yeah.
So the next day, what does he do?
Puts on tefillin. It's the second day.
Okay.
First day is the day of Levaya. Okay. Now, once again, the first day is not 24-hour periods, they're days. Okay, you do, correct. So all I'm saying is these two psukim here are key psukim to Yecheskel. Don't do what a normal Abel would do, or do what a normal Abel would not do. We're doing Yecheskel 24. Okay, just the first source right now. It's going to come up again and again. So Heoneg, don't be quiet. Mesim Eva Lotaseh. Don't do the mourning patterns of the dead, which are going to be the opposite. What I'm going to tell you. Pe'echa chavo shelecha. Wear your pe'er or your headgear. You're going to tie on your head, which we understand.
Do yes wear it.
Do yes wear it. You,
yeah.
Mr.
Right. The only go is the.
Unolecha tasim braglecha. Wear regular shoes on your feet, which an Abel does not do. Velo taseh et al safam, and don't
Here it is. Cover your upper.
I chopped off the English. Cover your upper lip. Okay, I missed the English here. Sorry. So don't cover your upper lip. We'll see there's something called atifas arosh, which we don't do anymore because it's so strange. Where the other would cover their head, and they would cover their head. Think of a kafia. Think of
like a deck tichel, like a woman's deck tichel.
The deck tichel goes all the way down. They cover it up to the lip. They can still eat. Think of it as an Arab in a kafia. Okay. Or whatever.
So we don't do that, but we should
don't
do that?
No, we don't. There are some people, sometimes in novel, you'll see may have his he wears a hat, he wears his hat lower.
Apparently they used to do it, what he said.
They used to do it. They stopped doing it in the Middle Ages because it was so strange and different, and they were afraid that non-Jews would make fun of us for kind of wearing silly things. It's like, we just stood out. So there's a concept that you shouldn't be so different from the non-Jews when they lived in Europe. As different as we think we are, some of it made sense and some of it looked ridiculous. I'm not saying if you wouldn't say anything because we're Canadians, we're good manners. Okay, so
that's like crystal clear.
But whatever it was, if people came to your house, you probably had a Shabbos goy, a Yontif goy, a weekday goy, who knows what you had. People saw you. So v'lo taseh al safam. So don't do this. What normally Aval did. V'lechem anashim lo tochel, and don't eat bread. Means this would be the opposite of the Suda Savra.
So this is don't eat any bread, just so you can't eat. You can eat.
But it's saying it's the opposite of what Aval does. Aval can't eat, and Aval does. There's the Suda Savra. So, sorry, I chopped off the end of the English there, but you got the gist. Okay, so you're going to see this. So most of what is found in these two psukim, God says to Yecheskel, do the opposite. There's one exception where God is telling Yecheskel, it's a trick pasuk, says, do exactly what the Oval does. Okay?
In this part, in these two psukim?
Yes. You'll have to wait to see what it is. Okay, so let's go back to the Gemara. So the Gemara says at the bottom of Yudal Amud Bet, the last line. The second last line. Avel aser b'tisporet. This is that Avel may not take a haircut. Why? Midakatani lahu rachman l'bnei Aaron. This is does not yet Yechezkel. This is when bnei Aaron in the Beis Hamikdash, in Parshas, in not the Beis Hamikdash, the Mishkan, when Nadav and Avihu die, so they're on the middle of the dedication of the Mishkan, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to the Bnei Aaron and basically says to them as well the same thing. Don't do what a normal level would do. It's very strange. It's Avelis. You don't really have it listed the halachas of Avelis, even though we believe the first day of Avelis is Min HaTorah. Shabbos, you have psukim that Chazal learn what to do, Pesach and so forth. Avelis, you have to learn from the exceptions to the rule, which is to the Bnei Aaron not to do and to Yechezkel not to do. Okay, so it says L'vashechem al tifra'u, which means don't make your hair go wild. He's saying to the Bnei Aaron, don't let your hair go loose, which means don't let it grow long. And now you're going to say, how long could it be there in the middle of the dedication of the Mishkan? So how long is it going to be there? Another week? How much is it going to get out of control? And the answer is, yeah. So mechlal dekuli almo aser. So it means that therefore any other avel is aser in what we call tispores, which means taking a haircut, okay, taking a shave. Then the Gemara says, okay, now we pointed out for many of you came in, there's going to be the trilogy, avel, and then Nidoi, and then Saras. So Menudin and Mitzorain Mahin Mitzasporet. So what about these two people who seem to follow them? Menuda is the person in excommunication, the lower form of excommunication. Mitzorat is Mitzorain is of course the person with leprosy. So Gemara says Toshma. And he brings a Bryce here, Menudim u'mitzorayim asurim l'saper u'lechabes. That these people are asur to take a haircut and to wash, which means they can't take a shower. These Menudim and Mitzorah. And the same thing, by the way, applies for an Avah. The Avah shouldn't take a bath, right? This person is very grimy.
The other two, I presume, this is all during Chol HaMoed, right?
We've left Chol HaMoed.
So,
these are laws about Avel in general.
I understand, but I'm not worried about the Avel. I'm worried about the other two.
They can't.
Why? You're going to say that a person who's excommunicated was never going to take a shower?
So the answer is the answer is the same thing in Avel. An Avel can first of all wash parts of the body.
But it's only for 7 days. These people are for who knows how long. No, I just want to make sure that I understood it. I mean, it's 7 days.
That refers to washing the clothes.
Maybe the chabes is to wash the clothes. Yeah, wash the clothes. Correct.
Okay, they don't get clean clothes and that's communicated?
That's what he said.
That's correct. No. That's exactly right. They cannot wash their clothing the same way that you can't not supposed to wash clothing in Chol HaMoed. The reason, except for Chol HaMoed, is different. The reason not supposed to wash clothing in Chol HaMoed, not supposed to also wash, launder. Right, that's was a dry clean specifically, because you should come into Yontif wearing proper clothing. So that applies for 7 days. Now, what if you lived and you only had one change of underwear? What if you only had one change of, one suit and it got dirty? So the answer is, if that's all you got, you can. There are certain exceptions. You'd have to say the same thing. If he was in this and needed to kind of do this, otherwise he go completely insane. So maybe a head to four. But otherwise, normally you have to do it based only on these. So he can't take a haircut. And the chabes, as I was corrected here, is not to be able to wash clothing. Okay. And just one point. Tosas asked the obvious question that when it comes to the Mitzorah, the pasuk says "Urosho yeforua uvgadam yufrumim." So it seems to say for the Mitzorah himself that his hair is growing wild. So notice the pasuk is black and white in Parshas Tazria Mitzorah, that a Mitzorah should not be able to have a haircut. And Tosafos says you're right. However, we have later on one of the Amoraim. Rabbi Lazar learns that from that pasuk something else. Okay, so according to that, he applies that to something else, and therefore he
put it in here.
So therefore, the Gemara is asking, according to his sheet, so you have to find some kind of source for it. And the Gemara does not have a pasuk. The Gemara actually brings a brisa, okay, which was obviously the tradition that they had. But it's good enough for us to make it clear, halacha l'maisa, that they cannot, neither Menuda nor the Mitzorah in this case, cannot have a haircut and cannot wash their clothing. Now, then the brisa actually continues. It gets a little bit off topic because our real topic is Avelis. Menuda shemes. A person nidoi dies while he's still in the nidoi, based in Sokol and Asarono. Okay, they actually stone his casket. And what does that mean? So does it mean they actually stone it like you think in the old Bible Belt Christians, the old literal meaning, or does it mean they pile stones on top of his Aron, which is what it looks like they did for Achan? When Achan in the story in Sefer Yoshua takes from the Mal, so they basically also understand that they piled a bunch of stones on top of him. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lo yamidu alav galavanim kegal shalachon. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. You don't stone him, which means you don't pile a pile of stones on top of him like we did for Achan in Sefer Yoshua. But the Beis Din puts a big stone on top of his Aron. First, it's not stoning. The guy's dead. The case is the minute to die. He's not subject to stoning. It means if he died, you show this dishonor to him.
But Achan was actually stoned, wasn't he?
Yeah, correct. So but when he was stoned, so obviously they stoned him. They left that galav avanim over him. So, and it says after he dies, the pasuk actually says, "Vaychuv vayakimu olav galavanim gadol." So with Achan, we know they put a pile of stones. They wanted to mark this. They wanted to dishonor him to some extent. They wanted to remember the story. Here, says Rabbi Yehuda, it's not. You put one stone, one big stone on top of his Aron, and Lamedcha, in order to tell us, Shekol HaMesnade Umeis B'Nidu, you have a person who was excommunicated, who dies when he's excommunicated, based in Soklin Es Arono, based in, do some kind of form of skila, which is really putting the stone on it. Okay. So that's black and white. So therefore, we know the first one here in this listing here, Tisporet, which is about a haircut, Avil is Asr, Menuda is Asr, and a Mitzorah is Asr. Boom. Gets easy. Next, Avil Chayav Batifas Arosh. Okay, the Avil is Chayav to carry out the Tifas Arosh, which is wrapping one's head, which I told you, think of a turban that is pulled down, or think of a kafir that's pulled down, and it's really up until the mustache. So the person could eat. Yeah. The person, I guess, had some kind of limited eyesight, right? But it's a clear separation. How do you know this? Okay, Minakamalei Rachman li Yecheskel. Here's the first place where the Yecheskel pasuk comes up. It says below Sateh al Safam, and don't cover up to your mustache. That's right. Safam is a mustache, right? So it means the upper lip. So Mechlal the Kuliyama Mechayve. So that must mean that everybody else is chayav to do what we call Atifas Harosh. Okay. And I told you, for those who came in late,
we don't do it.
We don't do it anymore. Okay, we don't do it anymore. So you're missing out. Okay, now the Gemara says, no. Let's take
It's really weird.
Go to Lawrence.
I'm telling you, what people do is sometimes you'll see an Ovel. It's very rare.
Sunglasses.
No, pulls his hat down. Pulls the hat down. He's trying to do the Atifas Harosh.
We just keep getting away from the Gemara.
There are two things that that we don't do since the early Middle Ages. One is Atifas Harosh, and the second was Kfiyas Hamita, where we turn the bed upside down. We don't turn the bed upside down because our beds can handle it, right? Well, it was
didn't matter. I guess.
You know what? You have to think of it the way people bring chairs on Tisha B'Av and sit down, right? But our beds are not able, because you have the way we have springs and bed springs and right and.
He said they used to have a little straw.
That's straw in a bag.
In a bag.
The bag over.
Correct. And by the way, it's possible that they may have sat on the bed as well. At other times. Think of your days when you went to summer camp. If you went to summer camp and you had your own, where did you sit in the bunk? You sat on your bed. Okay. Okay. So at any rate, okay. So that's about Atifas Harosh. So the Gemara says, and he's chayav. Meduda ma b'Atifas Harosh. What about a meduda? The person nidu. What about, does he do Atifas Harosh? Some Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef is going to tell us. Is chayav. We'll see. There's a second opinion. Toshma. We have a brayse that says, and here. Let me have to explain what this pasuk is. This it's not pasuk with the brayse. The brayse goes back to Maseches Tainis, and we learned Maseches Tainis. Those who remember it, there was a series of fasts when there was a drought.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct? And they would fast. And first the Yechidim fasted, 3 fast Monday, Thursday, Monday. Then everybody fasted. If the rain still didn't come, they fasted a stronger fast.
Right.
Until finally they came to the strongest fast, and it was like not fasting. Everything was crying and sitting, and they sat on the floor, and they went to the town square. And the Brisa there uses, says, V'hein mis'atfim, reading that when the Gemara brings the excerpt, V'hein mis'atfim v'yoshim k'menudim mechavelim achirach aleim and hashemayim. That they would sit. This is saying that if nothing helped, they would just sit with mis'atfim, which is like the term for atifas rosh, covered up, and they would sit like menuda and an avel until God would bring mercy to them. So you see that this little quote, this half quote, this partial quote from the Brisa in Masechet Tanis seems to equate both the avel and the menuda to people who are carrying out Atifas HaRosh.
Right.
So who says this? Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef therefore makes the equation that a menuda has to as well do Atifas HaRosh the same way an Ovel does. Now, these are not people who are menudim, these are people who are so saddened because there's no rain and they're going through the actions of sadness, like the menuda and the Ovel, which is Misatfim Atifas HaRosh. That's what
we're assuming that the menudim who go on for weeks or months have to walk around with this thing.
Correct.
Right.
That's
maybe even years.
Maybe in years. Remember now, there are 2 types of people, by the way, who are put in nidui. And we'll see this towards the end of this long sugya. One type of person is a person who is recalcitrant about halachic authority. Right? That's the usual kinds of ones that you hear about. Acher, Spinoza, the guys who say, I'm not going to listen to the rabbi, I'm going to make my own halacha. And that was seen as a very political and serious threat to the unity of the Jewish people. There's another type of menuda that's I won't say less serious, but you can understand, a person refuses to accept the judgment of a basin.
Like a monetary
thing, right? So then, and whatever, today we have sheriffs and we have bailiffs, but in those days, the ultimate way to enforce the basin's decision was you say, if you don't pay, you're in a chayrum. Right? And that's what the chen was for. So both of these people, by the way, can get out of the chayrum, can get out of the nidui. The recalcitrant says, well, I'll accept what they did, or he asks mechila from the person he insulted and denigrated. And the person who didn't pay, that's actually much easier. He goes back to his baldin, and he makes up with him. Right? So then you can reverse the nidui itself. Okay. Gemara has a discussion, by the way, later on, what happens to the people that put him in the nidui are no longer alive. Okay. You might need the same people who put him in to take him out. That's a tragic situation.
Never.
Don't say never.
That's what happens? It could happen like that?
Yeah.
You say never, it will happen.
Just have to get a better. We have to get a better base together. It couldn't happen.
Whatever. Okay, but
leave them forever.
Well, yeah. Okay. I remember, of course, in many of these Gemaras here, we're discussing this in an abstract concept. They made, as much as we kind of talk about nidu and chayrum, I don't think these were commonplace.
No, I don't think so.
Right? It's not like you talk about Avelis. Avelis, yeah. In Nebuch, the cycle of life says there will be Avelim. But Nidui, and how often it happened in a specific area where Jews live, these were the things that stand up in the stories of the Gemara.
I think the fear of it was enough. The fear of going, because when you're excommunicated, you can be buried in the Jewish cemetery.
Yeah,
what's going to get.
And I'm sure they negotiated.
So actually, it doesn't say you're not buried in the Jewish cemetery. It says you're buried in the Jewish cemetery, but they put a stone on your casket.
Oh, okay.
In other words, if you're Jewish, you always get into the Jewish cemetery, right? But there is a disgrace
on the edge,
right? And maybe
it's a suicide people on the edge.
And maybe the Avelim don't warn you, right? Okay. So anyway, so this is the sheet of Rabbi Yosef, the first part. Now, Rabbi says, wait. The Mishnah itself, the Brisa in Masechet Tanis, makes it very clear that this is not about real nidui. It's about the people who are suffering from the drought, who are trying to show tshuva to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore they're going to carry out as if they're in nidui. Plus, why do they think they're in nidui? Because who put them in nidui? Not the judge. They feel God put them in nidui. So maybe as a heavenly rejection of us, which is what happens when there's no rain. So this is a heavenly nidui. Maybe that's different than a human nidui. And the Gemara is actually going to present it both ways. Maybe it's stricter, maybe it's less strict. We don't know. Right now it seems to be saying maybe that is less strict So maybe a person who is in the heavenly nidui, which is the people in the drought, have to go atifas harosh, but a person who the judge is put into nidui, maybe he doesn't have to do atifas harosh. That's Abaye's question. So Amalei Abaye, Dilma menuda l'shamayim shiny. Maybe a person is in nidui because of Shemayim, or two Shemayim because God put us in nidui at that time, Chalila, because we didn't, that's what the rain is. Maybe it's different. But maybe a regular menuda does not have to do atifas harosh. So Abaye has a suffix. The suffix is not resolved. So Rabbi Yosef says no, that the menuda does do atifas harosh. Abaye says no, and everybody agrees that Avel does. And of course, we all agree that we don't do it anymore. Right. Okay, next. Mitzorah Mahu Bativ Sarosh. What about a Mitzorah? What about a person who has leprosy, who also is forced to be outside the camp? So, right. So Toshma, and it says V'al Safam Yater.
Where is that from?
That's from Vayikra Yud Gimel. That's actually the pasuk. That's the pasuk about Mitzorah. It says V'al Safam Yater. So there are certain laws mentioned in Vayikra Yud Gimel and Parshas Tazria about what is applicable to a Mitzorah. One is Rosho Yefarua, right? V'al Safam Yater. Rosho Yefarua Gadam Yufrumim. Where his hair will grow wild because garments will be ripped. It's all about the person with tzaras. V'al Safam Yater. All right, that means.
Put that thing again.
Correct. Okay.
That I think sounds familiar.
So that the pasuk is black and white. Well, at least it looks like so. Mechlal shechay bativ sarosh shma mina. So it looks like this is bativ sarosh and is very clear black and white. Now the Tosfos points out that later on Rav Papa is actually going to use the pasuk. That Rosho Yefarua, which we normally translate to mean his hair is wild, refers to some kind of turban, which we'll see, which it's going to come up in a couple lines. So this Gemara is not going to follow the statement of Papa, which we're going to have in a few lines later. You'll see it's going to come up. There are different drushes that go back and forth here. So at any rate, this is about, so we have now Mavel, Menuda, and Mitzorah. Yep. Okay? Shema. Next thing. Avel Asala Niach Tefillin. Avel does not wear tefillin, as I pointed out. We're talking about the Avelis. All the other things, by the way, apply for the whole Avelis. When they did Atifas Harosh, the Avel had Atifas Harosh for 7 days. When we say the Avel can't take his rest, can't cut his hair, it's all 7 days. But for Halacha, we paskin because there's a Chiyuv to wear tefillin, we limit it only to the first day, which is Avelis Min HaTorah. No, it's no big deal to say that you're going to wear this funny hat. And it's no big deal to say you're not going to take a haircut for 7 days. Those are rabbinic extensions. But it's a big deal to say when you should be wearing tefillin, you can't. So we limited lahalacha. That's why I told you before about tefillin. We limited it only to the first day, which is the Avelis Min HaTorah.
There was some basic. They said that was like some sort of thing from Moshe. I mean, you could certainly argue that maybe not putting on tefillin was even a greater sign of Avelis. I mean, you could argue that way, right? Saying that this is like something that's so fundamental to what you do all the time and whatever. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see how they got and where. And I'd be also curious where Avelis is from the Torah altogether, in the sense that you have to be an Avel as opposed to feeling being
Yaakov. With Yaakov is Avelis. Bnei Yisrael, when Moshe dies, when Aaron dies, when Miriam dies.
It's clear that the people did it for 30 days, etc. We don't sit shiva for 30 days, but I'm just saying that's different because people did a thing. That's just different than Hashem saying, "Do this," right?
Right.
Maybe, right?
Okay. You say Kaddish for a year, as far as go.
I'm saying it's clear.
Anyways, okay. So this is about tefillin. Am I on camera, by the way? So
yeah, you're on.
Okay, good. So now Avel also learned tefillin. And the Kamali Rachman Licheskel, because Hakadosh Baruch Hu says Licheskel Pe'ercha Chavash Alecha, that you're going to put on your pe'er, your beauty,
Right.
Okay? Which means, what's beauty? Well, beauty is what you wear tefillin. What else would be beautiful? Right? So that's how the Chazal understand this reference to what tefillin is. Once again, there's not a pasuk that says, wear tefillin yecheskel. It's pe'ercha. Mechlal de kuli alma. Mechlal de kuli alma aser. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Yecheskel to wear tefillin when his wife passes away, so that means that anyone else, when they're in a similar situation, would be also wearing tefillin. Okay. Now, we talked about, therefore, tefillin, that a novel is also to wear tefillin, and now we're going to apply this to Menuda Metzora. And here, it's not so clear. But it's not so clear for both of them in different ways. So Gemara says, Menuda Ma'u B'tefillin. What about a person in either is to wear tefillin? Okay, and this ostensibly would be for the entire... time of the person being in need. Okay, so the Gemara says, "Take it. We don't know. I have no source one way or the other. It's fascinating, and that's why I say you have to assume that a nidra was very rare, right? What does it mean? I mean, the person has a nidra. The first question is, what do I do tomorrow? Do I wear tefillin or not?
Like you said, it's a thing from the Torah, so. You can say, you guys can put in your cherem all you want.
Well, it's really saying we don't have a source to support it one way or the other.
Right,
this is halachic material, but it's really give me the source, prove it from a brayso. Okay. Now, mitzvah ma'u b'tefillin. Once again about personal soras, also probably even less common. Okay.
Right.
So Toshma says v'hatza ruah. So in discussing in Vayikra Yud Gimel all the different references about Matzorah, it then goes back and says, V'hatzarua she'yebo negat tzaras. The tzarua that has negat tzaras. So why does it have to say, V'hatzarua she'yebo negat tzaras? Just say, V'asher yeshbo negat tzaras. And it says, Begad of Yufumim, V'asher yefurah v'asafam yateh. What's hatzarua? V'hatzarua with a capital T-H-E is referring to someone special, the Rabbos Kohen Gadol, that tells me that a Kohen Gadol, Rabbos Kohen Gadol, and it says, Begadav Yufumim, Shiem Makoraim, V'asher yefurah, Ein Priya Ela Gidol Seyar. So this is Divrei Rabbi Lazar. So Rabbi Lazar learns from this pasuk Tzarua Sheya Bod Negat Tzaras V'Roshei Yefurua V'Gadav Yifrumim V'Roshei Yefurua. That even that it tells me first of all Kohen Gadol has to be a mitzvah. If the Tzaras falls the Kohen Gadol, it's going to be included. But Gadav Yifrumim means he has to kriya. That's what we normally interpret to be. Roshei Yefurua, he has to grow his hair long. Who says this? Rabbi Lazar. Okay, and then the Gemara says, Rabbi Kiva Omer, something else we learn from the pasuk. Nemra Havaya Barosh, v'Nemra Havaya Bebeged. When it says Begadav Yufrumim V'Rosho Yiyeh Forua, there's an extra Yiyeh. Because it's Begadav Frumim V'Rosho Forua. What's Begadav Yiyu Frumim Uvrosho Yiyeh Forua? So we make a comparison between Beged and the Rosh. Ma Beged, Ma Havaya Hamur Beged, the Yiyu that's found for the Begadim is referring to Davar Shechutz Legufo. It's referring to something that is external to the person's body, which are clothing. Clothing are not part of your physical attributes. Of Havaya Barosh, so too the Rosho Yefarua is telling me Davar Shechutz Legufo, something besides my body, which means when it says Rosho Yefarua, it's not part of my naturally growing hair that's attached to me. It's got to be the same with the Begadim, which are external to me. I have to do something which is rich to rip them. So Rosho Yefarua, my hair that's wild, is not referring to my hair, it's referring to my tefillin. My hair is wild because it's tefillin not on it. My lava tefillin. So this is so who says this? So Rabbi Akiva learns from this
that you can't put on tefillin if you're
you can't put on tefillin for a mitzorah. Right. Good. Okay. Now, parenthetically, what do you learn from this? You learn from the sheet of Rabbi Akiva that Atifas Harosh, that maybe even not Atifas Harosh that was shown, maybe even Atifas Harosh is going to be applicable to a person who is a mitzorah. because he's saying Rosho Yefarua, this idea of wild hair, the whole idea for the head itself is external to the head. It's referring to tefillin. So some of the Rishonim suggest that it seems to be from Rabbi Akiva, and that's how, and we'll see it even in the next line, that the exclusion for Rabbi Akiva, and we'll see it in Rav Papa 1/2 minute, is to exclude even that a Metzora is going to have his hair uncovered. And in fact, if it's not that clear in Rabbi Akiva, it's clear from the next statement on Rav Papa. Lo, it does. So let me just back up. I confused it a little bit. Rabbi Akiva says that what are we learning out from Rosho Yefarua? That a person does not wear tefillin. Who's this? The Metzora. So the Gemara says, is this not what it means? Or Rabbi Akiva says, this is not what it means. So Rav Papa, lo, akumta uvesudra. No, when it says that a person is not going to go show Yefarua, his hair going to be exposed, it means he's not going to wear the turban and the other kind of thing that he wore on his head. Kumta and Sudra are different types of head coverings. So Rabbi Papa is saying that you can learn something external to the body that the Metzora is not going to do, is not about not wearing tefillin. He wears tefillin. But it refers to something else that is external, which is about not wearing a head covering.
Right.
What do you see from this last statement of Rav Papa? Here it's clear now that he doesn't. If you learn from this pasuk, it's external to his body.
Right.
He doesn't do anything to cover his hair.
Right.
And when we learned before about Atif Sarosh, and we said that according to Rabbanon, that a Metzora is chayiv, you see that according to Rav Papa, a Metzora is going to be parted from Atif Sarosh, because Rav Papa seems to learn that the exclusion of the Metzora is about wearing the hat. Don't wear a hat. So this is what you see in terms of trying to make the comparison to what we learned before. So really, if you just back up one step, so what we had to summarize until now. For tisporet, for haircut, an alvel is aser, menuda is aser, metzora is aser for haircut during their periods of time. For ativus arosh, an alvel is chayiv to cover his head, right up until his mustache. When it came to the menuda, there was a machlokas. Rav Yosef thought he was chayev to cover his head. Abaye was not so sure, because it was maybe the people in the tainus are menuda l'shamayim. And then we learned a couple of lines before that when it comes to metzora, the chachamim said he's chayev. But now Rav Papa, who learns out from this pasuk of Havaya, seems to say that a metzora would be excluded from covering his head, because he's not going to wear his hat, can't wear his regular hat, he's surely not going to wear a more extended kind of hat, and therefore he would not do the mitzvah of Atifas Arosh, and Mitzvah would not do the mitzvah of Atifas Arosh.
The question is, and then again, they didn't say Teku, they started off by trying to deal with tefillin.
Right.
Right? And the question is, do you consider tefillin, since according to Rav Papa, it's clear we're talking about some kind of hat, we're not talking about tefillin. Does he put on tefillin or not? It's again. It just
so it's not. That's correct. Does not come precisely. So when it comes to the tefillin, it does not come to any conclusion.
Right.
So in terms of the tefillin, the last item here, in terms of tefillin, the avel does not wear tefillin.
Right.
The menuda, we don't know is teku.
Right.
And the metzora, there's no proof one way or the other he does or does not wear tefillin.
Right.
Okay. Once again, it's less. It's more understandable that metzora they would not know what to do.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen post-biblical. No. But menuda, that's more complex, more perplexing. All right. Well, we'll have some more takus as we go through the menuda situations. Okay. Next one. Avel aser b'shelat shalom. Okay. So an avel, you can. Avel don't greet him. He doesn't greet you. Okay. There's no shelat shalom in the house of Avelis to an avel. And how do you know this? So once again, our good friend Yecheskel is brought in as the proof. Remember, it's going to be, I told you, most of the Yecheskel proofs are going to be the opposite. In this one, it's actually what Yecheskel is told to do. It's a trick. Okay, I'll tell you why in a moment, okay? Okay, so that's the trick one from Yecheskel. So let's just see the Gemara for a minute. So, Aval Asa Bashel Shalom, the Kamalei Rachman Yecheskel, Heoneg Dom. Heonegdom, be silent quietly. Speak quiet means, what do you mean quietly? Well, you can't cry, alright? So what does it mean? Shad means you're not going to cry. Okay, in fact, the previous pasuk said you're not going to have tears, you're not going to have a hesped, you're not going to have a tifkeh. But we understand this to mean that you cannot give shalom. You can't speak. You can't talk. In other words, you can't open a conversation. You can't ask how you are. So Avel Asa B'Sheila Shalom. So you see from Yechezkel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was actually telling him that this is prohibited, and to Yechezkel, and therefore it's going to be prohibited to all other Avelim. Okay. So Tosfos asks the obvious questions. The third Tosfos on page. Tosfos says, by the way, Tosfos extends this. We'll have in a little bit. Tosfos points out this applies as well to Talmud Torah. You have to be quiet. You can't learn. Nobody can't learn, except the things he needs to learn, or things are sad things. So Tosfos points out, how is it possible that from this line of Yechezkel, it's telling you what to do? So Tosfos' answer is a very funny answer. He says it had to be that Yechezkel had to do something to be novel. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu couldn't wipe out everything. Why? Because what's the purpose of Yechezkel doing all this? Remember, Nevi'im are told to bring prophecies to the Jewish people. And in many cases, they act out certain things. Yechezkel is being told through his marriage and the death of his wife, who he loves. So this is really about HaKadosh Baruch Hu breaking with the Jewish people. The Churban Abayis is coming to be, and eventually renewal. So for people to really understand this, by the way, where's Yechezkel when this nevuah happens? Yechezkel is in Babel already. He doesn't even see the Churban Abayis. So but the way he acts out, people will get. It's really strange. Your wife dies. You marry someone. The wife dies. You're not no avelis. How could you do this? So this becomes the analogy about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Jewish people breaking apart from each other. But for them to understand this, you got to do something of avelis. How would you know that? How would you know that his wife died and something terrible happened? So, well, you know what? Yes and no. People are very private. So to do this, as Tosfos, you have to assume, right, that he was doing something of avelis. You look in the second half of this third Tosfos. Tosfos says, "V'had dahav Yechezkel noag avelis v'heo negdom u'v'chol shar dvarim lohaya oseh." So every other thing that God says Yechezkel is to do the opposite, and here He tells him to do exactly what he's supposed to do. Shahayat tzarich laheros b'ksas dvarim shehu aval. You have to show some things. What's the easiest thing to show? Right, the least intrusive is you don't speak. Right, keep your mouth shut. Not you don't wear tefillin. Not you. I mean, these are all the opposites. But what they're speaking and being quiet does what it is. And therefore he does some avelus, and he's showing the whole avelus situation is the mashal for HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the Jewish people. This breakdown of the connection of the Jewish people to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? So that's why this one of Heo Negdom is the exception to all the other rules that you learn from Yechezkel. By the way, it's you know that when we want to learn a makar, a source, we have to have a source in the Torah. So one of the questions, right? So how do you learn this from Yechezkel? The answer is it's not really a drasha. So it's called the Gilui Dvarim. Normally when I learn a drasha, like I have Havaya, the same way the beged has to be external, so too what's on the head has to be external. That's a drasha. That you can only learn from Psukim in the Torah, like they learn from Vayikra Yud Gimel. But here we're saying that Yechezkel did this, or Yechezkel didn't do this, and he was told to do the opposite, so I learned exactly what people were doing. It's not a drush, it's just that you see from the way he did it that this is what the halacha is, or this is how they carry things out.
So the women covering the hair is the same thing. We learned it from someone.
From the uncover her hair.
Okay.
That's from the wife who's.
I forget exactly.
It's
also something like
when you accuse your wife of sleeping.
Right.
Something like that.
So all I'm saying, but that's why you can learn this from a source that is really all from outside the Torah. Okay. The same thing, we'll have a source from Shmuel Bezin and a number of sources from the Nevi'im that really have the same idea. It's not really learning a drasha, but you see when they're talking about Avelis, what they're actually doing. So that's what they did, that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Okay.
So from what Hashem tells the Navi, we can deduce what the normal practice was in Avelis.
Correct. And in this case, what makes this a little more complicated is 9 out of 10, he's saying, okay, your wife is going to die, and I'm telling you what not to do, because I don't have to tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We'll have the next sources from Shmuel Bet. It talks about a woman is asked to dress up and pretend to be an Avel. Okay, this is after David exiles Avshalom, I think. or after Shalom, before he dies, if I'm not mistaken, right, and she carries out certain things. So that's not about a command of God. It's simply showing us what a person does. Can they wash? Can they anoint? And if she wants to present herself to be an Avel, then the fact that she doesn't anoint herself shows an Avel doesn't anoint herself. That's how David's going to recognize she's an Avel.
So how did they conclude, as you say, the fact of saying it should be, since all of them are the opposite, how did we conclude? I guess we're toast. So you would have thought the implication is the exact opposite. That
correct. So you should say, well, they should apply. So Tosa says you have to do something. One of the above. One of the above is not like the others. Now, how do you know this one is not like the others? Right. So you see from the Gemara how the Gemara assumed this. You have to assume the Gemara knew what Avelis was.
Absolutely.
Right. The Gemara's not looking for sources. The Gemara is looking for proofs.
Right.
Right? In fact, if it were looking for sources, in a number of the cases, it brings a brisa. It's not really a source. It's telling you, see, this is how it was done. So the Gemara assumed that we know what Avelis is. It's working with a template. People, I said, once again, the cycle of life is the people there will be Avelim Nebuch. So how do you know, therefore, that you don't speak? And as you walk in the Shiva house, you don't say, Shalom Aleichem, how are you? Actually wait for the Avel to speak up. And he doesn't even start out with Shalom. He starts by talking something else. So, must be there's a pasuk somewhere that, well, you see the pasuk of Yechezkel. So this must be the exception. So some of them are very clear. It's the ones that are a little more oblique, like Pe'erecha Chavo Shalecha, that we have to learn that applies to tefillin.
Yeah.
But you have to assume that Chazal had this Mesorah that Anova didn't wear tefillin, at least not the first day.
We find elsewhere the word Pe'er means tefillin. No? In Anin Zemiros, there's one of the Pesukim in Anin Zemiros.
Correct.
That's what it is, that there's a reference. And everyone says refers to tefillin.
But that's reversed the other way around. It's taking this. Anim Zemiros is a very late Kabbalistic work that is talking about a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And it's giving a Kadosh Baruch Hu very anthropomorphic designations about that are very humanistic. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is wearing tefillin. Keshet tefillin herolionov.
Yeah.
That's like the scholar residents kind of spoke about one of his things where in the Middle Ages they would take God would have a form. They would think of Shaul Shudas, I think he spoke there.
Yeah. Actually, he gave it a shear before Shabbat.
Right, correct.
Where he spoke on this theme.
Yeah. I forget which one.
That people thought Hashem did have.
They thought, the Middle Ages having a form. Yeah. Whereas today, if you say God has a form, people look at you like a heretic.
But you have to correct.
I also heard a lecture.
However, Kabbalah in general. Kabbalah in general, which is it's really the study of God.
Right.
You have to define Kabbalah in very basic terms. It's an analysis or breakdown or division in God into the very multifaceted parts of an infinite being. That's why you have spheros. That's why there are different levels. There's different shemayims. All of this is really focused on that. So when you start studying this, you're going to try to understand it in ways that only we can understand, which are physicality. So even though you're talking about something that's completely incorporeal, that's what Anim Zemiros has. But the Pe'er in Anim Zemiros is taken from this Pe'er. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. Which by the way, is why many shuls don't say Anim Zemiros. It's really Kabbalah. And even more, if you're really saying Anim Zemiros, it should be a person over Bar Mitzvah. I know one little kid to get up there, Anim Zemiros, everybody sings it along like it's nothing. It's a very serious, heavy Kabbalah work. You got a little kid that's up there, 8 or 9 years.
That's the sheet of the Gra.
Right.
That it's just too holy.
Correct. Which is why we don't say it here. Correct. But I'm saying even if you really halachically, if you're going to say it, assume that you say it. So the person that says it should be an adult. or over bar mitzvah, or at least whatever it is. Well, we say if you're not 40 years old, you can't crack Kabbalah. So we instead give it to a little baby to say it over, and everybody sings it like it's a little birthday song. Okay, anyways, onwards and downwards. Here we go. So, okay. So now the Gemara says, Menuda ma b'shel shalom. What about a person who is a Menuda? What about Shelat Shalom? Did I skip a line?
I think I'm Rav Yosef. Are we or did I miss? Oh, Menuda. Sorry, Menuda. You're right.
Menuda b'shel shalom. Okay, so once again we had very similar to what we had before for Atifas Arosh, where Rabbi Yosef is going to say Chayiv and Abai is going to ask a question. I'm Rabbi Yosef Tashma. It says B'Shelat Shalom Shebein Adam L'Chavero Ke B'nei Adam Hanazufim L'Fnei Hamakom. This is taken from another one of those brises in Masechet Tana. It's talking about the period of sadness as they tried to approach the Almighty to reverse the drought. So it says that they sat on the floor, they were Atifas Arosh, and they minimized Shelat Shalom between people, Kivnei Adam Hanazufim Lamakom, like people who have been insulted or debased by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it doesn't use the term here. This is not as clear as the previous one, which talked about Kimenudim. Right. This is Hanezufim, but Nezufim means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushed them away, which is what a nidui is. So Rav Yosef says, you see from this that they did not do She'elat Shalom like people who are, quote, Nezufim / Menudim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what do you see from this, according to Rav Yosef? That they were Asur, a menuda is also to give She'elat Shalom, like an Avel. So I'm Rabbi, Dilma menuda l'shamayim shani, right? The chomer. Maybe the menuda is different because it's more chamor, and so maybe a regular menuda is not going can say hello to people. The question: what means She'elat Shalom? He's supposed to be separated from people,
right?
Correct. So there were certain things that he could actually come into contact with under a nidui. He was actually able to could do a certain amount of small business that even though people may not be able to come within 4 amos, they could still converse with him. They talk about he would sell water. Actually, and water may have been actually a very important commodity. Okay, so he can open up a little store. So there are harsher forms of chayram. What we call chayram is harsher forms are completely cut off. Neither was the first level. Okay, so therefore, according to Rav Yosef, and a menuda is asur. According to Abai, he's not quite sure. Okay, would make sense for us that maybe he should be asur and She'elat Shalom. What's the last of the trilogy? Mitzor ma b'She'elat Shalom. So this is an interesting drash. This is taken from Vi'al Safam Yateh. This is the pasuk about the Metzora. It says, Rosho Yefurua v'Gadav Yifrumim Vi'al Safam Yateh. So what's it mean Vi'al Safam Yateh? Which we learned before applies to Atifat Arosh. She used Sifsotav Meduvako Zu Bezu. That if Safam Yateh, if his lips are going to be covered, they're covered together. They're glued together. Which is another way of saying he's not going to be conversing with you. He's not going to be communicating with you. He's not going to be idle chatter. So therefore the Gemara here, we learn from this that a Metzora is also b'She'elat Shalom. Okay? So Avel is also b'She'elat Shalom. Menuda is a machlokas. Rabbi Yosef says he's also b'She'elat Shalom. Abai says not so sure. And then when it comes to the Metzora, he's also b'She'elat Shalom. Okay. What's the next one?
I think there's a rest of that line perhaps. Right?
So Gemara says, "V'nifshav minol lemenuda." Okay, so let's use this brisa.
I think I missed something. The Dubak Zemazeh, Sheyehei Kemenuda.
I'll read it again. I skipped the line. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Toshma Vyasa Fam Yatesh Yusuf Tatav Dubaka Zubazu, Sheyehei Kemenuda Ka'avel. The Asa b'She'elat Shalom.
That sounds like that's almost like a brisa somewhere.
It is. Okay. Correct. It's a brisa explaining the pasuk of Safam Yateh, which is telling me that I learned as well from the pasuk of Vyal Safam Yateh that his lips are closed, they're attached, right, glued, and this Metzora is going to be like a menuda and like an Avel.
Right. So that's a strong.
So this clearly talks about the Metzora. V'yalsa from Yater. That's the passing of Vayikra Yud Gimel. But now the Gemara is going to ask, it said, he's like a Menuda and an Avel and also B'Shelat Shalom. Shouldn't we learn from this that isn't a Menuda going to be also B'Shelat Shalom? Abaye said you couldn't learn it from the brisa that talked about the people sitting in tinus.
Right,
but here it says Kimenuda, black and white. So Gemara says V'nifshot Minol Menuda. Let's use this brisa as a proof text, a source, to say that Menuda is chayev, as Rav Yosef learned from tinus. But Abaye says that maybe different because it's Menuda l'shamayim. So Amar Rav Bar Pinchas Mishmeid Rav Yosef. So he answers in the name of Rav Yosef. It's interesting. The name of Rav Yosef, who was the person who used the other pasuk. Mi katani sha'asr sheyehei kimenuda ka'avel. Does it say that he's asr? It's a very tricky way that you have to read this. They say he's asr to speak like an avel and a menuda. Where's the comment here? Katani sha'asr sheyehei kimenuda ka'avel. Katani b'milei achrine v'yasanami b'shelat shalom. He's saying the menuda and the avel are going to do certain things, and in different items they're going to carry out avelus. And this guy, the mitzora, is also going to be also in shelat shalom. So it's not equating them for the action. It's not saying he's also in Shelat Shalom like the Avel and Menuda. It's saying he's like an Avel and a Menuda, that he is mourning or has certain things taken away from him, and he has came to Shelat Shalom. But I can't really know for sure. I'm applying it all the way to Menuda. You would think, normally you would think it looks like it should.
Yeah, it would.
The Gemara seems to say it's almost like you have to put a comma there. So what does the Brisa say? V'asar b'Shelat Shalom. It says, his lips are together, and he's going to be sad, like the Menuda and the Avel, and this Mitzorah is also b'Shelat Shalom. Not that Shelat Shalom goes on the whole trilogy. He's saying that each of them have their own separate halachas. It's not a perfect answer. The Gemara is going to use a similar kind of answer in a couple lines about something else. But that's why the Gemara wanted to find a source, for a separate source about Menuda, which Rabbi Yosef found was the case of Tainus, which Rabbi didn't fully like. Okay.
I mean, the case of the Tainus, I mean, it's really not on the same footing as the individual.
That's what Rabbi says.
The individual Menuda, I don't know, but I would have thought it's just the other way around, that there should be more, it should be more chomor for the individual Menuda than for the congregation. You're not saying this dude is
so the Gemara is going to use this later on, and is going to use the Menuda l'shamayim in the exact opposite way, the way you're suggesting, that it should be less chamor.
Right.
And the Gemara is going to say, hey, you used it the other way around. It says, yeah, you know what, you're right. It could be more, it could be less, but it's not the same. Okay. We don't know. Okay, let's. I think we got time for one more. Okay.
Now things are complicated.
What boils down to this is the basic listing of laws, and they're trying to find some kind of Tanaitic source for them. And if they're lucky, they have a pasuk in the Navi. Okay. Last one we have a chance to do, which is about Divrei Torah. Avel also b'Divrei Torah, and Avel can't learn Torah. And that, by the way, is a halacha. One of the strangest things that we do in the house of Shiva is that we learn Mishnayos. Because the Avel really can't be learning the Mishnayos.
So the Avel doesn't give a class.
The Avel never gives a class. But the Avel still says the Kaddish Rabbanan. Okay?
You would think to heal him, the word Divrei Torah is a pretty broad word.
Correct. So what actually really would be more applicable is even learning something like Pirkei Avos, which is Musar. Probably halachically is better than learning the Mishnayos. I know the Mishnayos, they learn the Mishnayos in the Shama, the Mishnayos with the Yosef and the Nifta's name. That's the minhag. And we're doing it because everybody else is there. They can learn.
Right.
But the Avel really is excluded from learning. The only thing they're learning is about Hilchos Shiva. Right? You go to Avel's house, never can see they have the books there. Why? Because we never read the books before. We don't have to learn them. And second of all, that's all they really can learn. Either that or what we learn on Tisha B'Av. Yirmiyahu, Eov, right?
Or this.
or this, less Pergamot Kattan. Yes, correct. Thank you. This is also good for Tisha B'Av. All right. So anyway, Ava can't learn Divrei Torah, but the Kam Rachman Yechezkel don't. These are the same pasuk about being quiet. What's the ultimate conversation? The ultimate conversation has got to be Torah, right? And the only thing in Shelat Shalom is speaking to people. Learning Torah, you could learn with yourself.
I was going to say, you could stay dome and still learn.
There's another pasuk from Tehillim about, I'm trying to think what the pasuk is, about Mesameach Lev.
Yes, correct.
Yain Enosh?
No, it's about Talmud Torah.
It's about Talmud Torah.
Okay, so who says you can't? So then you have to prove that he can't have any form of simcha.
But I understood that was the source of the ovo not being involved in Torah study.
So the answer is that's the source why we don't, for example, on Tisha B'Av, why we don't, because we are Avelim and we're sad, and therefore Torah makes you happy. Okay, Torah Hashem T'mim Shivas Nefesh. Or is there another pasuk? I don't remember. So inherently the soul wants to learn Torah. Of course, we all do, except we don't know that we haven't found our souls. So so if it goes against the grain, but this is a clearer source for Yechezkel because he's an Avel. He's an Avel. His wife is dying. His wife died. And Torah is also the other antithesis of sadness. So an Avel can't learn, and Avel is actually prohibited from learning things except the Shiva things and the sad things.
But they're learning from Dome.
Right, from Dome. Okay, now, just very quickly, the other two here. Menuda Mal B'divrei Torah. What about a Menuda? Can he learn Divrei Torah? Same question. Rav Yosef, Toshma. This is Toshma. It says, Menuda Shona V'shonin Lo. That a Menuda you can teach and learn from him. Remember I told you Menuda is a lower form of Chayrim.
Right.
And Niskar v'Niskarin Lo. You can actually hire him and you can be hired out to him. It's fascinating. You don't have to go near him, you just have to hire him. I don't know, he passed a check through a messenger or someone, I don't know. Leave it for him. Muchram, a person, a Chayrim, Lo Shon of Lo Shonin Lo, you can't learn from him, you can't learn to him. Lo Niskar v'Lo Niskarin, you can't hire him, you can't be hired to him. So a real cherem is a complete cutoff. On the other hand, a menuda, that's the question. Maybe menuda was more common than the real cherem. That's the story we know about the people who really put in cherem. All right. Now, let me just finish this. Aval shona huliatmo shlo yafsik es limudo. However, even the muchram learns to himself. He shouldn't forget his learning.
Right.
The oselo chanut ktana, you give him a little store. B'shvil parnasaso. The noish have parnasa. And v'yom rav zvune. And what kind of store do we give him? Maya bepitka di arevos. They gave him a store in Pitka di arevos, was some kind of place. It may have been a place where they needed water. May have been a place where they didn't need water. Depends what the place was. Shma mina. You see from this that a menuda is permissible to study Torah. And even a muchram can study Torah himself.
Right.
Now this is fascinating because the assumption was this wasn't for an extended period of time. You asked before about washing his garments. Washing his garments, let him keep dirty garments. But stopping Torah for more than 7 days, that they couldn't imagine. One last line. Mitzorah mal b'divrei Torah. What about a mitzorah? So Tashmat says, "V'odatem levonecha v'levnei vonecha liyom asher amat l'shnei Hashem l'kecha b'chorev." God teach your sons, your grandsons, the day you stood at Chorev. So why are we teaching your children about standing at Chorev at Har Sinai? Ma lahalan be'emo v'yirva v'reses of Isaiah. The same way that standing at Har Sinai was full of fear and trembling and perspiring and awe. Right? So too our learning Torah on a daily basis should be done in this fashion. What does this have to do with anything? So it means that if you're in a state that you're a serious guy, you're supposed to learn Torah. If you were in a state of levity, you'll see where this comes in a moment, then maybe Torah is not for you at that moment. Who would be in a state of levity? A person whose mind wandered off and he had a seminal mission. Because his mind was thinking about something he shouldn't have been thinking. His mind was thinking about the body, so to speak. So therefore, Mikan Amru Zavin Mitzora'im Uba'ale Nidos Mutaram Likros B'Torah. A person who was they're not the ideal people, but they still were serious. The person was Zav. You may have thought he should learn Torah. He does learn Torah. Mitzorah. Here's his black and white. A Mitzorah learns Torah.
What's the Ba'alim?
A person who has relations with a Nida. Okay, mutarim legros b'torah b'navim b'ksuvim u'lashanos b'medrash u'b'shas b'alachos v'agados. That person these people can study Torah and the Nach and study Medrash and Gemara or Mishnayos, maybe or Braisos, halachas agados, u'balkarian asurin. And a Balkari who saw a seminal mission, it must be that he didn't have Amor and Yera and Reses and Zayah, and that's why he was thinking about these things, which is why he had a seminal mission. So what we learn from this is not really that important about Zav and Baal Nidos and Balkari, but you see black and white from this long brisa that enumerated among the people who can study Torah is Mitzorayim. So it's black and white, he can say Torah and the Nevi'im, Ksuvim, and so on and so on. So therefore, bottom line, when it comes to learning Torah, an Oval is Asar, a Menuda is Mutar, and a Mitzorah is Mutar. So one case where both of them really are very opposite from what the Oval is, and they share that commonality of being Mutar to study Torah. Okay. Well. Okay, we will stop here, and we're halfway through this long piece about the different levels of halachas of Avelis.
Here in